You're thinking to yourself, wow, that's pretty cool. Or maybe, wow, this guy is an idiot for spending this much time cutting over 40 hectares of grass. Well, you're probably right on both accounts. In this video, I'm calling Operation Bad Idea Silage. Let's cover number 1, why I decided to buy and cut all of the No Man's Land map grass, and number 2, just went into actually making it happen. There comes a time when playing Farming Simulator, you think to yourself, I wonder if, and then you probably come up with some just insanely stupid idea. Well, most of us would just miss this as a fleeting thought, but I, my friend, am not most of us. I'm the type of person to do something what would consider stupid, insane, awesome, I don't know, things just to see the outcome and experience what it's like for no reason other than that. Introducing the Operation Bad Idea series. This series will be a set of videos where I document and go over the highlights of these really bad ideas for your entertainment. Up first, I tackle No Man's Land. I will cut 100% or really close to it, all of that grass on the entire map, haul it all back to silos, sell off the silage, and see what I get. Because this is such a huge undertaking, this operation is going to be split up in a few different parts. So let's cover what's going to happen in this series. I plan to, 1, buy up all the land, 2, remove all the trees. Since I'm not that insane, I'll keep some rocks to make it sort of kind of realistic. I'll figure out what equipment I'm going to use to cut the grass. Then I'll again get to some major grass cutting work. I'll then buy some kind of windrow all the grass. I'll then figure out the best way to pick up all the grass, probably a forage harvester. I'll then build some silos to haul all that grass, dump it all to ferment, and then finally to figure out some ingenious system to pick up all the silage and sell it off. Let's see how much money we can make from silage. We need to buy all the land. Now, in order to do that, I use the government subsidy mod. So I'm a multi-millionaire in a lot of this list. So I definitely cheated as far as the money goes. So we definitely need to just buy up all the land first. I then cut down all the trees by cutting the posts in No Man's Land, which completely removes all the trees. Look at that. It is beautiful looking. So open and vast, just waiting for 100 hours of work. It's time to choose our trusty steed. I went with the Krone Big N 450, and actually I went through 3 or 4 of these when I was going through this, but let me go ahead and purchase that. So I went ahead and purchased the Krone Big M50, and look at that beauty. That thing is a beauty. This thing, I picked this one because, number 1, it's the fastest, and it is, but the problem is, this map is so big, this was so much work to do, that it still took forever to cut all the grass with this thing. Now it's time for the big show, at least the unfolding of the Big M. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get started. This is where I'm just fretting like, oh my god, what am I getting ready to get myself into? This is the time where I'm thinking, should I really do this? Should I not really do this? I'm not for sure. And I think, no, what the hell? Let's do it. Let's bring down the mowers. 1 and 2. Let's do this. Now this is where I'm thinking to myself, you know, it's not that bad. I'm just going to go ahead and grab these little pieces of details here because, you know, I want to get 100% of all of this grass. And what I didn't realize was when you're about, I don't know, 20 hours into cutting grass, you really could care less about the little details. It's all about, let's just get this done. You didn't come here to see me do 20, 30 hours of grass cutting. I'm going to time-lapse through a lot of this. And I'll keep this voiceover going, I'll keep the time-lapse going, and I will do a lot of the time-lapse. So I captured all of this, well, the huge majority of it, with my capture card, so I could time-lapse it and do a voiceover like you're seeing here. So this was really satisfying to watch the time-lapse overhead. But what I found was that Even with the time lapse, the video is going to be really long. So I tried to really trim this down as much as possible and time lapse as much as possible, yet give you a really good sense of what went into this project. I'll time lapse the majority of this, but for the most part, I'll kind of come in every now and then when something of interest comes up. As you might imagine, it can get pretty monotonous going through, taking hours of just cutting grass. But there are a few times where there's some entertaining thing happened or something happened. But so I'll jump in every now and then and cover kind of the highlights and give you the gist of the more entertaining pieces. Here is my first big challenge. I decided not to flatten the hills because I wanted to make it as realistic as possible. But as you can see, the hills on No Man's Land are huge. They are mountains. And cutting the grass on these things, whenever you're going over this, you're at such an angle that sometimes you can get it just right. Sometimes you'll slide off the map. Sometimes you won't. And I wanted to get every little piece here, especially early on. And I eventually decided, just screw it. I'm going to get the most I possibly can and then go from there. So yeah, cutting grass, actually on any process when I was processing a field, is by far the worst on these mountains. At this point, you can see the results of me spending way too much time on these mountains trying to get this grass cut. You can see that it's usually straight, but as soon as you start getting to these really steep inclines, you kind of get to going all over the place. So you can see it is just a complete disaster whenever you try to do this. We try to climb up the hill like this. It is really slow. With the tractor just does not have the power to go straight up this freaking mountain, and I spent way too much time trying to go back and forth, trying to get all this. And you can see from just the grass trails that it took forever just for these hills. Coming up on our first refuel. So after a while, yeah, the thing runs out of fuel. I ran them all the way until they ran out of fuel. And I did this probably 3 times, I think. I went through 3 different mowers just because they needed a refuel. I didn't refuel them because, look, you can see I have $55.8 million here. So what I did was every time that it refueled, I would go in here and then buy another mower, so then I wouldn't have to run back to the shop. It's just quicker. I would just buy another big M450 and then roll it out to the field and start off with where I was before. Out, and I needed to scooch it over a little bit just to get it out of the way. So I would ram these things out of the way just to get them, so I anal about getting details, getting all this grass possible. But you see, eventually one mower can't really move the other one, and I eventually said just screw it, and I'm just going to do the best I possibly can. Alright, since this did take so long, I would have, every once in a while, I would get out physically from the mower, and I would run over here by a rock or something, and in real life, I would get up and pee. So this is me. I would just sit here and pee virtually on the rock, but in real life, I would actually go to the bathroom because I had to go, because I couldn't just sit here for hours and hours and hours, doing this. I obviously had to get up every now and then. So when I was done, just walk on back to the mower and get back to it. we have traveled into darkness now. During the time, I would keep it so I can keep the time lapse to give you a sense of how long it was taking. I would normally keep it like 0.5, 1 for the time, and then sometimes I'd put up to 5. But I did mow work through the night sometimes, especially here in the beginning, just to kind of give me a sense and a sense for the recording of kind of what the process looked like at night. But eventually when I was doing the further stuff like picking it up and harvesting and selling it off, when it would turn night, I didn't want to spend forever and just not see where I was going. It was so much easier in the daytime, so I just sped up to 360 during the night and went straight into day. We're on number 2 running out of gas. So this is 2 tanks of gas in this mower. And I did the exact same thing for all these. As soon as it ran out of gas, went back to the store, grabbed another Big M, rolled it out into the field, and went on about my day, or my night, or I don't know, whatever day this was at the time. This took, I don't know, maybe I think it was 20 hours, something like that. And what I did was, whenever I was done, I wanted to get the very best view of my accomplishment. You know, I wanted that some kind of dopamine rush to know that, okay, I didn't just waste 20 hours. And look at that view. It's just beautiful. It's that beautiful cut grass. That's the moment that you savor all this work for this crazy, insane project. So this has been phase 1 of grass cutting. So this whole thing is about silage. Next one, we are going to pick up all of it, and that'll be in the next video in this series.